My name is Mark Laurence. I'm the co-founder of Biotecture. Biotecture is a company that I set up with Richard Sabin 5 years ago to put vertical greening onto buildings. This is a hydroponic system that we developed, and that means the plants grow without soil. Now, they put their roots through into this material, which is a mineral fibre, and this acts like a huge sponge or a reservoir, and it holds all the water that they need, and also in that water nutrients have been added. So they get all their feed through there, and so they put their roots through only for physical anchorage and to absorb water, nutrients and water as they need it. That means it's very stable for them, doesn't fluctuate in its condition much, and the plants like that, then they're happy in there. And the water is fed into the panels, and here, this is a single panel here. There is a pipe hidden at the top of every panel behind there, and that supplies water and nutrients to it. So the nutrients will give the plants all the food they need. Now, it doesn't run very much and it doesn't need very much water. This system will run maybe once a day for a minute or two, sometimes twice a day, depending on the conditions. So we put a very small amount of water on. This material acts, as I said, like a big sponge and holds that and makes it available to the plants. So they grow in there and they're very happy. They're like sort of bottle-fed babies. They get all the water and all the nutrients they need delivered straight to their roots. Here, this is indoor planting, and we've got orchids and different bromeliads and ferns and different things here. I'm always experimenting with new plants to see what will grow, and whether I need to change conditions or feeding regimes, etc. So this is a test ball for our own purposes, but that feeds through into more knowledge about plants and more variety and more designability. But we can use the same system outside. It's exactly the same. It's just the plants that vary. These indoor plants, things we call house plants, are subtropical. They have a steady year-round temperature in their native environment, and they do indoors in buildings as well. In the outside, we use temperate plants, which are used to having a hot summer and a cold winter, and we change the plant palette according to the conditions that the plants are going to be grown in. But the system otherwise is exactly the same. In the urban space, the most underutilised space is this vertical element, and this is why we think it's very important for people's psychological and physical well-being to introduce as much green as possible into these sorts of spaces. So there's the psychological benefits, the contact with plants, that's well known and well documented, but there are many other benefits as well. These plants help to purify the air, for example. Indoors, things like these orchids and spider plants and peace lilies, things that are very common, they all absorb toxins or VOCs, volatile organic compounds, out of the air, and they convert them into harmless substances, so they actually remove them from the system. Things like formaldehyde, which is given off by carpets and laminates and all sorts of materials, very common toxin, if you like, in the indoor environment. These plants are very good at removing this. We've just put a test wall up in London with Transport for London to test how much diesel particulates are removed by a green wall. So there's all sorts of environmental benefits that we can do. So not only do they look nice, but they are very useful as well. And the potential for them being useful is something we're only just beginning to really discover. Also, the other benefits are things like reduction of urban heat island effect, which is where cities get hotter than the surrounding countryside because of all the absorbed and reflected heat. If you have a nice cool green wall on the side of the building doesn't heat up and then give out that heat at night back into the atmosphere. But because also these plants, of course, are putting across air currents, so you get transpiration off the leaves where the water evaporates out of the foliage, and that helps to cool and clean the air as well. They make the urban spaces quieter because the foliage baffles sound. We're also experimenting with other things like food growing. We've grown nearly 50 varieties of vegetables on our walls in our greenhouse on another site. So we know we can do an awful lot of urban food growing as well, which is nice. Again, can put people back in contact with the sources of their food and cut out some transport miles. So there's lots of different things we're experimenting with, and we've really barely scratched the surface of different environmental things that benefits that green walls can bring. But we're convinced that they're going to become more and more of an integral part of the urban fabric as we move further on into the century.